Well, welcome to another edition of the Community Development Journal. Hello, I'm Julie Jones, Planning Manager for the City of Fridley. And I don't think I've ever seen a time in Fridley where we have so many cranes doing major work in the community. And so in this program, we're going to focus on some of the really big projects that are going on this summer here in the City of Fridley. One of them is the third and final building behind me being built at the Cielo Apartments project. This building will be a little bit different than the other three in that this one will have the parking actually underground with levels of living up above. Another site we're going to take a look at is the Civic Campus that's still being built. The Public Works building is finished now, so we're going to take a close look and meet with the architect about that site. And then we're going to meet up with the developer of the Industrial Equities site, which is on the corner of East River Road and 694 that a lot of people have been asking about. And also take a look at the latest and finishing touches being built on the final building being built in the Northern Stacks development on East River Road south of the freeway. So join us for a look at some of the major construction projects going on in Fridley right now. Well, one of the projects that we've had probably the most questions from the public about what is going on there is the site at East River Road and 694. And that site is owned by John Allen, who is the owner of the company Industrial Equities, and is a very big project going on here in Fridley. John, thanks for meeting me here today. One of the things I wanted to ask you is, this site has such high visibility. A lot of people calling are saying they're assuming that it's a retail development, and so I know there's some history here as you tried to get a retail development here and some housing here, but it's ended up being an industrial development, and I wanted to explain to the public a little bit about how we came to be that way.
Well, I think as the public probably recalls, this was the site of the Lamar plant that was here for 40 plus years and was torn down in the mid 2000s. And at that point in time, a Walmart had been proposed for the site. That never happened. Of course, the big box blow up occurred and big box retail is on the wane. We've worked with the city, and I think the city and Industrial Equities were patient in their objectives. We wanted to have a high quality development, whether that was office or whether that was retail or whether that was a business and commerce park like this is. And when the opportunity presented itself to work with Curtis 1000, which is one of the largest printing companies in the nation, on their consolidation here in the metropolitan area, the move was made to develop not a distribution building. You'll notice when we talk about this that this is more of a business park, a park of commerce. And so no retail. It's going to be more of a production facility, manufacturing production facility for Curtis 1000 with a speculative 156,000 square foot high-tech flex building on the north side.
Do you have an official name for the project? I've heard you call it a Park of Commerce. Is that what you're...
Well, our official name for the project is Fridley's Park of Commerce.
Okay. So how did... These buildings have gone up so quickly. How did you manage to just go from approval, like it seemed like overnight, the walls were up and the buildings were looking complete?
Well, that's true. We started grading this project on April 20th. As we sit here, not even at 90 days, the 250,000 square foot building has the walls up. The 156 foot building has the walls up, the roof on. We're working to finish the roof on this building. And so, yes, it's been a very pressured project. We had a lot of planning going into setting it up and getting it started. Great grading contractor with Arndt Construction, Fabcon, who is our precast panel people. We're ready to get moving as soon as the late spring let us up and gave us the opportunity to get moving. And so, yes, it's been probably one of the fastest projects that we've been able to put together. We fully anticipate having tenant improvements starting on these projects in early August. And so, from a standpoint on any level or dimension, this has been a very, very fast project. Aided probably because it's a good site, a sandy site. And we had just a great construction team in place and had the ability to plan this through the winter of 2017 and the beginning of 2018. So from a standpoint of speed, not many projects we've done have moved this fast. Just a great team and we were really ready. And of course, I can't say enough about the cooperation of the city. The city has been outstanding to work with, which is why we always enjoy working in the city of Fridley.
And this is your third project in Fridley?
Yes, this is the third project. We did our first one in 1995, North Park on 73rd and University. Our second one in the late 2000s, 2008, on Main Street, Fridley Rail Distribution Center. And then we acquired this land in 2011. And as I said earlier, very patiently waiting for the right project to come along that would work well for us and work well for the city. And this is it. I mean, this was a tenant, Curtis 1000, that multiple cities and multiple developers tried to court throughout the metropolitan area. But they really loved the presence of this site, the access to the metropolitan area. It works well with the transit district that's just down the street with the North Star. And so when they added it all up, there just wasn't another community or another location that had the quality of location and the quality of opportunity that this one had.
I'm sure that distribution access is important for them. So Curtis 1000 is one of the tenants that will be here. Any other tenants you're ready to announce, or is that still in the works?
No, Curtis 1000 is our first tenant. They're taking 250,000 square feet on a long-term basis, consolidating a number of printing plants in the metropolitan area into one, creating not only a movement of jobs, but as you all know, as people move on and retire, or as they expand, and they're a big company, expanding company, they create additional jobs. That's 350 jobs. People will recall Lamar did a shampoo plant here and some other hair care products. They had 450 jobs at one point in time on this site, and so our traffic study indicates that even with these two buildings, that we'll have less traffic impact here than the former Lamar plant had.
Well, that's good. So there might be some new jobs in the area too, and I think that's some of the questions that we've gotten from the public too, is wondering if there's going to be new employment opportunities here for people.
Well, there's no doubt there will be, and there'll be high-paying employment opportunities. The people that run these presses and are involved in this operation, Curtis 1000's operations, are highly skilled and technical people, and so the employment opportunities not only in the Curtis 1000 facility, but as I mentioned, the 156,000 square foot building just on the other side of this, on the north side of our project here, yet to be leased, but the employment opportunities in all probability on that. And I think that's what we have found about Fridley. People like to be here because it's close to public transportation, it's accessible, and you have around you a work employment base that is highly desirable.
Now, we're on the south end of the site. On the north end of the site is the access off of East River Road. And I know that's been some challenges with that. We had some land swap of land that had to go on because of the entrance that you share with Capstone Container.
Right. Well, the land swap was largely related to the city's really smart move to try to secure the right-of-way for 57th that could go from University Avenue to East River Road and bypass the traffic and congestions on 694. And so this project enabled us to work with the city and Capstone to create that right-of-way for that future access point across the railroad and onto East River Road. And so I don't know what the timetable for that's going to be, but this project will allow the right-of-way to be established, and will create the stormwater that's going to be necessary to take the water from the bridge, and will also then give both Capstone and Industrial Equities project an easy access in and out of the project without creating any additional traffic.
Right. And that's one thing I wanted to mention. Even though this piece of land was taken out of our transit-oriented development district to allow this industrial development to happen, the city is still pursuing the plans to finish the bridge from 57th over the railroad tracks to connect East River Road to the retail that's on 57th Avenue and University Avenue. So.
And we're highly supportive of that. We think that that's a real positive. Having the 57th bridge there, creating the opportunity from this side of the tracks to get over the other side of the tracks without dealing with 694 and the on and off ramps, eliminating some of the congestion that occurs there, but just access for our employees and our tenants to go back and forth between the commercial area and this employment center.
We're going to continue to pursue it. It's going to be a big project. But well, thank you, John, for meeting with me today and showing us this site. Good luck with the rest of the project and hope it continues to move ahead very quickly.
It is going to move very quickly.
You're planning to be kind of finished in the fall, as I understand.
Well,
right?
we anticipate starting tenant improvements in the middle to late August for Curtis 1000 space, and as soon as we sign our deal, we have 3-4 different prospects who are looking at the second building. As soon as we execute on one of those, we'll be well prepared to start those tenant improvements as well.
That's great.
All right.
Great.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amy Kempf, the Neighborhood Preservation Specialist for the City of Fridley. It's election season and many are hot on the campaign trail. While we can't help you with whose sign to put in your yard, we can help you know where to put it. Political signs are different than your average neighborhood sign. They can't be placed until 46 days before a special or regular election. They also need to be at least 10 feet away from the curb and 10 feet from any driveway. This helps prevent any vision safety issues. After the election, the signs must be removed within 10 days of Election Day. Besides political signs, other common signs in Fridley are garage sale and real estate signs. Garage sales are a great way to get rid of clutter. When you put the sign up to advertise for your sale, make sure they're no bigger than 3 square feet. And make sure to remove them within 3 days following the day of your sale. For single-family housing, only 1 for sale sign is permitted per building. This sign needs to be 6 square feet or smaller and placed at least 10 feet from the property line or driveway. The sign should be removed within 5 days of the sale or lease of the property. If you have an open house, the open house sign is only permitted during the day of your open house. Please be mindful of traffic when putting up a sign. While flags and balloons are a fun addition to your sign, they can get in the way of drivers and distract traffic. Putting a sign on a corner also makes it easier for your sign to be run over and makes it harder for people to see your sign and come to your garage sale or open house. If you have additional questions on signs or city code, please call me at 763-572-3598 or visit the city website at fridleymn.gov.
Well, one of the things we're doing in the planning department this summer is systematic code enforcement, where we go out and inspect every property in the city. And the person that's working on that this summer is Sam Burns, who is our summer planning intern. And Sam, I know you've been busy sending out a lot of code enforcement letters, and we wanted to let people know not to panic when you get one of these letters from the city, because different letters have different meaning, right?
Right, and so because I'm inspecting every property in the city, obviously a lot of letters get sent out, and oftentimes they're over things that aren't huge deals, but they are violations. So not maybe just panic. Don't panic right away. Exactly. If you receive one of those letters,
you're not going to receive a citation until you've received multiple notices from the city. So when people get a letter, Sam, and they're confused about what it really means, what do you want them to do?
Well, yeah, obviously the first thing to do is to read the letter, and sometimes the language in the letter can be a little bit confusing or a little bit scary sounding just because it's legal code language. It is the city code that's cited in the letter, just so you know exactly why you received the letter. But the best thing to do if you're really still confused after reading the letter is just to contact us. And there's always going to be a phone number at the bottom of the letter, and you can always stop by City Hall too. We're more than happy to talk to you and explain about why you got the letter in the first place and what we need from you to fix it. So really don't panic, just kind of contact us and give us a call or whatnot if you're confused about why you got the letter.
And I know a lot of times we catch people with code enforcement letters when it's really you're in a crisis mode, something's happened in the family or whatever. So if you need more time, people can give you a call and explain that, right?
Right, yeah, the city is really flexible. We understand sometimes people are on vacation, sometimes there's a death in the family. There's often unforeseen circumstances that come up and you just can't exactly deal with it right now. And, we are more than willing to talk to you about it and, give you an extension, give you all the time you need to figure it out. It just has to be where we're in contact with you so we know exactly what's going on. But it's never been a problem where people don't get enough time as long as, there's a communication between them and the city.
Communication is the key. So what are some of the most common violations you're seeing this summer?
The most common violations are often ones that can be fixed pretty quickly. Things like, too long grass, parking your vehicle on the grass, or, leaving some building materials or firewood or tires or whatnot in the front yard, just kind of general things like that can be really, taken care of in about an hour max. It's really uncommon that you actually have to have, They actually have long-term things that take a little bit more time to deal with. We do send letters for vehicles that have expired tabs because, we figure that we don't bill you for an expired tabs, but if you're pulled over by the police, they might very well write you a ticket for having expired tabs. So, that's something that gets sent out, just as kind of an early warning from us. And that's kind of one of those general things where we have to spend money, but that's more uncommon. It's usually pretty quick fix for most of the letters.
Right. Well, that was a good explanation, Sam. So the key message is if you get one of these letters, don't panic, give us a call. The phone number's on the letter, and we will be glad to work with you to work out a solution. Do keep in mind that besides the summer inspections, we do handle code enforcement year-round. Amy Kempf is our neighborhood preservation specialist, and you can call Amy if you've got questions anytime about your property or a neighbor's property, and you can reach her at 572-3598. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
I'm at the site of the Northern Stacks development on East River Road with Paul Bolin, the Assistant Executive Director of the Fridley Housing and Redevelopment Authority. Paul, this has been an incredible project. I know it's one of the tax increment projects that the HRA has been working on, or that you've been working on.
Yeah.
And almost complete now, when it was supposed to be a 10-year-long project, and here we're now only in year 5.
Yeah. Julie, just across the street from where we're standing, you're seeing the 7th of 7 buildings going up, and you're right, it was we anticipated this taking about 10 years to be completed, and here we are in year 5 and the final building is going up. So it has been tremendous success. There's been a lot of demand for the space, for the type of buildings that Paul Hyde, the developer, is putting up.
Yeah. And really some interesting tenants that have gone into this complex too that we've seen, which is exciting to see.
Yeah.
And I understand now that Paul Hyde is actually even now planning to expand the project beyond the original plans.
Correct. Yeah, Paul Hyde has purchased property just immediately north of the project across the street. It was a former building formerly used by Altemp for a storage warehouse. And he is going to take that space, modernize it, upgrade all of the HVAC systems to it, put in a proper storm pond. And there is some contamination on the site from a previous owner, and Mr. Hyde is getting all of that cleaned up as well.
Okay. And so, so that will be officially then still be part of the Northern Stacks development.
Yeah, he is referring to that as Northern Stacks 8.
Okay. Okay.
It will have the same colors and finishes as the project behind us here.
Okay. And I know one piece that hasn't been leased out yet that people have been interested in is the boiler room, where the actual stacks are at the base of the stacks for the Northern Stacks. Any news on what's being developed there?
Yeah, the Hyde Development Group continues to meet with different brew pubs as potential end users of the site.
Okay.
And this summer, they're actually going ahead and they're putting in some windows, and they're fixing up the boiler room so that people can have a better idea of what the vision would be for that building. And he hopes to have a tenant in there by this fall.
Great.
Or at least have a tenant lined up by this fall.
Okay. That's exciting. And don't forget, there's the restaurant over here too in the BAE Systems building, Northern Lights, that's open to the public. So we've got a restaurant already in place on the site. Paul, I know, besides working on housing and redevelopment projects, one of the big things that the Fridley HRA works on is your home loan programs and home improvement programs. And so any news on any changes on that?
Yeah, we do actually have, just recently we made 2 changes to our loan program. We actually added a new program, and it's going to be a deferred loan for seniors that may want to either make upgrades to their homes so they can stay in their homes, or make upgrades to ready their home for sale, to maybe move on to some new type of housing that more suits their needs. The way I'll just give you a brief overview of the program.
Okay.
One of the homeowners would need to be at least 62 years of age. They can borrow between $5,000 and $25,000, and then that loan is it's placed against your property as a second mortgage, but there are no payments due on that until the property ownership transfers.
Okay.
So it allows people to make improvements now and then pay when they transfer the ownership of the home down the road.
Cool.
One of the other exciting changes we've made is to our multifamily loan program. Before we only loaned to buildings that had between 2 and 4 units. We've now changed that to loan money to buildings that have anywhere between 1 and 12 units. As you're aware, in Fridley there are a number of actually 11 unit buildings.
Yes.
There were a lot that were built as 12 units, and then typically that 12th unit became the office and
Or
laundry area.
Laundry room, yeah.
So, there's been some changes there, and if anybody would like more information on either program, they can go ahead and give me a call at 763-572-3591.
Great info. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
The city of Fridley is home of many hardworking, self-starters, and career-minded people. As city staff, we see a lot of passionate and successful people in Fridley. However, there are some home occupations that are not permitted in Fridley, and we would like you to be aware of city codes when considering a home occupation. Garage sales, if not followed correctly, can actually be considered a home occupation. The city of Fridley only permits 3 garage sales of no more than 3 consecutive days per event in a 12-month period. Besides garage sales, home occupations are not allowed in a garage. They are prohibited in any accessory building like a shed and must be carried on entirely in the home or dwelling. The city prohibits home occupations consisting of auto repair or service of any vehicles other than those registered to the residents at the property. Storage of equipment or materials related to any home business may not be stored outside. The business may not change the character of the neighborhood, for example, by generating a significant amount of customer traffic to the premises, specifically over 10 vehicles in one day. City code also requires that the premises limit deliveries and pickups to a maximum of 3 a week. Deliveries and pickups by semi-trucks and trailers are prohibited. Finally, the city asks that parking is limited to no more than 2 spaces related to the home occupation. Examples of an approved home occupation would be a home office or an Etsy shop. Home occupations have many regulations, and these can be found in the zoning code. It's best to consider all factors of your home occupation before taking on a new venture. If you have additional questions, please call me at 763-572-3598 or check the city website at fridleymn.gov.
Well, just a few days ago, I got to see the new Public Works building for the first time. We used to call Public Works the garage. Now with the new building, I don't think we're going to call it probably the garage anymore. There's so much more here than just the repair of city vehicles and equipment. There's a sign shop, there's offices for the Public Works staff, and just wanted to show you a little bit about what's gone into the design of this building and how it is incorporated into the whole civic campus. So we're going to meet with the architect that worked on the design of this building. Well, with me is Andrew Cooper, who is with Ortel Architects. Thanks for being here
Thank
today.
You for having me.
This has been quite a challenging project, I'm sure, when it comes from an architectural perspective. So I'm glad you could be here to talk to us about how some of this has worked. Now, as I understand it, Ortel Architects was a partner with BKV on the whole civic campus site.
Correct.
And BKV brought Ortel on board because they wanted someone who specialized in public works facilities to work with them on this project.
Yes. Ortel Architects, this is our primary market sector where we work almost exclusively with cities designing and building public works facilities, maintenance facilities, storage facilities, and associated building features.
Okay. So not all of the requirements for this building were foreign to you then, I assume, but I'm sure the uniqueness of this site, maybe to start with, was was something of part of the challenge, because as I understand it, they really wanted this facility to take advantage of some of the views of the ponds that are in the center part of the campus, as well as to be attractive to the future housing that's going to be wrapped around.
Correct. One of the challenges with this particular project was that it's not just a civic campus site. It's a civic campus, but also the housing developments that are going around the perimeter. And Public Works can tend to be a very noisy, and it's a very busy site. Generally very, very busy overnight and early in the morning as well.
Sure.
So one of the challenges for this particular project was, how do we plan for traffic flow, for workflow, day-to-day workflow, to be a good neighbor, not just to City Hall, but to also the future developments around the site.
Right.
And you know, this site, being the old Columbia Ice Arena site, was heavily trafficked at one point. So traffic to this area is not foreign. So how do we also, in Public Works being located currently, the old facility right behind us, there was a lot of Public Works facility traffic here already. So we didn't have to say, how do we get Public Works vehicles there? We just had to say, how do we get them around the site, and still dealing now with incorporating a lot of public traffic to the facility and site.
And in a confined space too,
Right.
with Public Works still operating next door.
Correct. You know, a Public Works facility of this size usually has quite a bit more land to operate. You see, we have a salt building on site. There is a cold storage facility on site. There are some raw material storage bins for dirt, sand, rock, and whatnot. But it's not nearly as big as, say, another facility might have. So we also had to fit those activities and those storage facilities on the site, as well as fueling now for police and fire on site as well. So there's a lot of big vehicles, and there's a lot of constant vehicle traffic around this site. So yeah, a little tiny area, relatively speaking, for a Public Works facility, although it is a large portion of the entire project site.
Right.
It could be bigger. So that was one of the design challenges. How do we fit all these programmatic design elements into this area, give the city what it needs to function on site here, but also be that good neighbor.
So tell me, how did you come up with a solution then for kind of reducing that amount of noise of truck traffic coming through and the backup beepers and all of that?
The solution for this project was to really look at a workflow around the building. We had a couple different iterations of design where right now we're upstairs in the office area, where it was a one-story office project where it actually closed off the drive that we currently have. So there was going to be a turnaround type of traffic pattern. But that led to those traffic interfaces, those backup beeping horns that are disturbing at 4 a.m. sometimes to residents. So we worked through a couple different iterations with staff to figure out what is the right flow. Public Works does a wash, fuel, park type of workflow. So we had to incorporate how a truck comes back from a plow route, what they do, they'll fuel, they'll wash, they'll park. So right now, all that traffic comes in on the northeast corner and actually comes through the building straight, driving straight, no backup. So there's limited backup horns, and now we're driving straight out onto 71st and out to morning routes.
Okay.
There's still going to be some backup horns because it's unavoidable as you're loading vehicles with salt. You have machinery that does have to back up in order to get in and out of that salt building. But if the previous facility had X amount of horn backup because of the way they operated in and out of the building, we reduced that probably 80 to 85% on this project.
Wow. And then you mentioned the offices ended up going up a second story. So the original plan was kind of building things on the flat, it sounds like, but that's how we ended up with the upstairs offices?
Right. So with the upstairs offices, we reduced the total building footprint. So we also had a budget constraint to deal with on this project. The entire project was set at a certain amount of dollars, and each building and site component, excuse me, had a set amount that they had to deal with. So by pulling the offices upstairs, we got the benefit of the drive-through, and then we reduced our total building footprint. Yes, we had to add an elevator for accessibility purposes, but that cost was offset by the amount of space we saved on site, and we're able to get that traffic flow. And then one of the added benefits is that you do get the view of the park and the stormwater features that are going to be between the Public Works facility and the City Hall and some of the private housing development. So the personnel responsible for maintaining the city can see what they are maintaining out of their office and break spaces.
Right. Yeah, there's beautiful views here from the conference rooms and the offices and in the lunchroom. And also, I think it made the building more attractive from the exterior, right? Because that was one of the wants that the city had, is they wanted the outside of this building and not only to blend with the rest of the civic campus buildings, but to also look good to the surrounding future housing.
Right. One of the challenges in dealing with a campus of buildings is how do you make them have their own identity, but still tie in as a total campus project. We didn't want the City Hall to look one way and the Public Works to look one way. We wanted to take those two facilities and blend materials, blend the aesthetic forms so that you knew that the buildings were part of the same civic community. But there are some identity differences. We have some overhead doors. We have some, we don't have brick on this facility. We chose durable, quick erection materials so that the speed of construction was quicker, and so that the cost would come down, but still able to maintain that campus aesthetic. But then we took those offices and lifted them up, and so now they're more visible behind a screened site, as we do have a fence all the way around the site for security and screening purposes. And now we took those more appealing office spaces and gave them some form so that they are identifiable from the intersection of University, and as people are coming into City Hall and coming through the park, they see the Public Works facility, their Public Works facility.
Okay. You mentioned the word security, and I'm assuming that was a very big challenge with this site, with all those overhead doors you mentioned, so many different activities going on, parks activities, water and sewer activities, and snow plowing and all this. What were some of the difficulties, I guess, in meeting the security needs of the site?
Well, not a lot of Public Works projects have a large civic park immediately outside of the facility. So there is a fair amount of public interaction on this site. So how do we address the needs of the public with this facility and with City Hall, but still maintain separation between the Public Works traffic and that pedestrian traffic? Public Works vehicles are large. They don't stop very easily. They have large turning radius. So we do secure the entire operations behind a site fence. But we also integrated into the site design portions of the building that are still accessible to the public, restrooms, and we integrated that with the design of the plaza so that people still can come up to the Public Works building, but there's some really defined separation between what is Public Works and what is public. Now the flow of Public Works traffic coming through the building with the two overhead doors here on the west side, because they're just exiting through there, they've already slowed down. That vehicle traffic is slower because they got to exit the building.
Right.
They have to wait for the overhead door to open before they exit. So there's a higher level of visibility there. And there's an obvious difference in pavement. We have some colored concrete out there versus asphalt. People don't generally walk on asphalt because it's parking lot or roadway, but concrete with the patterns, that's where people will be, and that's where they could walk up to the building. So there's some visual cues there that kind of separate what is Public Works and what is public amenity.
And of course, the city was interested in having this building be as sustainable as possible too. So I assume there's some different things that have been done. Well, just the fact itself that, I mean, the big change is what's great about this facility for our public works equipment is pretty much all of the equipment and trucks are inside a building now instead of being stored outside.
Right. Sustainability isn't just about what components you can put into the building, and we did integrate some sustainable features into the building. Daylighting. The room we're in here has tons of daylighting within it, so all the staff occupants get this daylighting exposure, even though they spend a lot of their time outdoors. When you're indoors, it's a lot different than being in a cavernous type of break area or vehicle storage area. In the vehicle storage area, we integrated skylights, so that these skylights, even on an overcast day like today, are letting so much light in that these electric lights, LED lights, don't even have to turn on.
Okay.
But when they do, they are LED lights. So we're using a very reduced amount of energy, even from the old building. This is so much bigger. We're using a comparable amount of energy, even though this building is so much bigger than the old facility. So, but yes, getting vehicles indoors, maintaining them properly indoors is all a significant sustainable feature, because the vehicles that the city purchases are very expensive.
Correct.
So the longer you can get life out of those vehicles, it justifies the expense of the building, because now instead of a 5 or 7 year replacement, you might be reaching 10 or 15 years on those vehicles, and that's a significant change. And those are maintenance items, and they require staff to operate them, and they require staff to repair them. So if they're spending a lot of time operating and maintaining, they're not out within the city performing their day-to-day duties. So that, you know, it's a sustainable from a long-term investment perspective as well.
And another key feature to that too is the new wash bay. That had to have been a design challenge, because you're having to wash vehicles from the size of a pickup truck to some of these huge vehicles that we have.
Correct. Wash bays are difficult to deal with because there's so many different options you can do within a wash bay. The previous wash bay was all hand wash. So the staff would pull in and they would hand wash with a hose or a pressure washer. One of the features we integrated in this building is an automated undercarriage wash. So that's washing the underside of the vehicle, which is often neglected in those hand washes. So now when a vehicle pulls into that wash bay, they're automatically getting that spray hitting the bottom of it, washing all the salt and dirt and off that chassis. And that's really the part of the vehicle that fails first. So by just integrating that feature, we're extending the life of that vehicle automatically, because a staff member can't really turn that off. It's automatic when they drive into the facility, and then they can get out and they can do their hand washing with a power washer to knock the snow and ice, knock the dirt off of it. Come in, park, it dries within a heated facility, not freezing outdoors and air drying, which causes rust. So the integration of that wash bay really does extend the life of the vehicle. And you know, one of the difficult features or planning exercises with a wash bay is how you get into a wash bay and still bypass a wash bay, because right now we have a wash bay that's big enough for 2 vehicles. But if there's 2 vehicles in there, someone else can't come in.
Okay.
So we have a couple other options for entry into the building, and someone can always go back out and queue up to get into the wash bay, or there's the ability to wash elsewhere in the building. It's just not as heavy a detailed wash as can be in the wash building, or in the wash bay feature.
Yeah. Now you'd mentioned fueling earlier too. Now that's of course another new feature of this building is we have a new fueling pump area.
Fuel station, right.
And I think that's probably created some design challenges too, because there was a desire, our old fueling station did not have a canopy over it. So when it was raining, we never wanted to refuel the city vehicles. But I understand that's a new feature that's going to be incorporated into this site.
The fuel island design, again, being part of that good neighbor, it's a heavily trafficked area on site. And where it's located on the east end of this site is immediately adjacent to a future planned residential development. So yes, we want to protect staff when they're fueling their vehicles, but one of the other keys with justifying the canopy is how we screen this activity from the adjacent residents. So we do have a screen wall. The cedar fence comes all the way around the building. Once the rest of existing public works is taken down, that will be there. But then we have a canopy that it's not your traditional canopy that you find at a local gas station. It is a custom design, has polycarbonate roof panels. So it is a steel frame structure with these translucent polycarbonate panels. So even though you're protected, you're still open to the daylight. There's no shadows cast. There's no darkness underneath it during the day. It's still open and airy, but during a rain event, you are clear. During snow, you are clear. And that also reduces the amount of time Public Works needs to clear snow around the fuel island. So that will reduce damage to the fuel tanks, damage to the canopy structure, damage to any lighting. And this is a very costly systems integration with the pumps and the hoses. You want to try to keep traffic as minimal around there as possible, strictly for fueling. So the canopy reduces the amount of plowing around there, so it will help the longevity of that system as well. There's still lighting for evening activities, evening fueling. One of the major concerns is safety as well, for police fueling after hours. So they are protected. They still have lighting, but they are still screened, so they can get out of their vehicles with confidence, knowing that they have some protection there visibly. So.
And of course, security systems all around the exterior of the building.
Correct.
Next to the fueling station is the new mechanic shop, which is phenomenal compared to what they used to have. And just one of the things that was so cool to see when I was seeing the facility was the new hoist that can lift even the largest vehicles that we have.
Right. We spent a lot of time working with the mechanics staff, planning the location of these lifts and the vehicles that will be lifted on them. So we had to plan around the largest fire truck, with the ladder truck, and how the ladder truck has to have the cab tipped forward and the ladder rotated out so that you can get to the components for maintenance. So we had to diagram that and plan that within this space. It's not uncommon in a lot of public works facilities to do that work outdoors. So now which is what the city did previously, now we've brought that activity indoors so that that vehicle is protected during maintenance. We also had to plan for the largest public works vehicle, which is the VAC-con truck, which is used to suck out the junk from your storm sewers and maybe some excavation work during water main breaks to repair that very heavy, very expensive piece of equipment. So we have 2 lifts within that facility that will do the heavy equipment. We have a platform lift that will lift the vehicle via the tires, and then we have a post lift that actually lifts the vehicle up via the frame. So there's a multiple way of servicing that equipment. Within the maintenance facility, maintenance area, we also have in-floor heat. It's the most efficient way to heat that particular space because that's where the occupants are. In reality, the maintenance area is the one area that is occupied for the lion's share of the time during the normal business day.
That's true.
So by giving those occupants immediate comfort during winter months, which seem to dominate the state of Minnesota, they can fine-tune that a little bit, but now they're more comfortable when they're working on vehicles, and we're heating the objects in the space rather than the air, which for safety purposes has to be constantly changed out. So
I suppose with garage doors going up and down all the time,
correct.
It makes more sense to have that
and
too.
from an energy perspective, it saves a lot of money trying to heat that volume of airs. It's a really tall facility. Where the old facility, the interior clear space might have been just a hair over 20 feet, we're up to about 26 feet clear space here. So you can lift that vehicle all the way up and walk underneath it, get underneath it to perform that service. So we also integrated daylight into that space because it is the space that is occupied from a day-to-day basis on a longer time period. So, you know,
And needing to see detailed work of what they're doing too.
right, and it's it's commonplace that mechanics like to work with, you know, their specified task lighting, and we have integrated electrical pickups for that. But still, if you can do a lot of work without having to turn the lights on, again, you're saving that much energy.
Yeah, right. Now, and another thing when you talk about kind of a convenience for staff that impressed me with the facility is how it was designed so that the staff that's coming in from the field, that's working out in the mud on a sewer main break or whatever, has the ability to have lockers there right when they come in and washing facilities right when they come in, so that when they come up to their nice new carpeted office area, they're not tracking what's on them through the building.
Well, we talk a lot at the beginning of this discussion kind of about vehicle flow, but there's also the staff flow. You know, once they park their vehicle, yes, they're dirty to a point. So we worked with staff to figure out how they would come into the clean spaces, that is the office area, and pretty typical is to come through a wash area, somewhere they can shed their dirty boots if they have to, shed dirty clothing. There's a laundry facility on site here integrated, so if they have to do some laundry for some extremely filthy uniforms or clothing, they can do that. And then they can come upstairs to the clean area and keep this area as immaculate as it is right now, slightly after move-in. So, but we also did incorporate some restrooms downstairs so that you don't automatically have to come upstairs just to use the bathroom. So you can go into those restrooms without maybe becoming as clean as you would to come upstairs for break.
Okay.
And they're very durable materials and cleanable materials so that those spaces can take the abuse before this upstairs space can take the abuse.
Okay.
But in addition to that, we also understood that sometimes things are going to get tracked in. So you mentioned the nice carpeting. This carpeting is very nice. We selected the color with city staff so that tar black would not show up. We're standing on a very black carpet right now. But it's also a heavy-duty walk-off carpet. So this is the same type of carpet you'd find in a walk-off mat at a convenience store or a JCPenney's or something. So you can actually knock your shoes and your boots off on this, and it's really easy to clean. It doesn't hold dirt. It's a really heavy-duty carpet tile, and it's also carpet tile. So if something gets destroyed,
you can just rip up a tile and just replace one tile.
it. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I'm trying to think of what else is kind of unique about this site. I know one thing else that's new that we haven't talked about that is interesting is the new salt brine system. I'm not sure if I'm calling it the right thing.
You are.
So that was something new that had to be incorporated into the design too.
More and more cities have gone to a brine system that actually pre-wets the salt on their truck or pre-wets the street so that the salt stays where it's supposed to on the street to penetrate that ice and snow. A lot of cities still borrow from counties or from the state. So at this facility, it was something, if we're building a brand new facility, this is a material we need and we want. So we worked with city staff again to where would that go? What does it need? How does it work with where the location of the salt building is? Because you need to pull that salt from the outside salt building and bring it into your building. Salt is very corrosive, so how do we deal with that in terms of door selections, building material selections? How much brine do you need to store? So there's a maker that is installed that incorporates the salt and the water, mixes it at the appropriate solution, and stores it within a tank that then Public Works can drive into the building and fill their tanks within the building that are on the trucks from this massive reservoir tank. So it's just a more efficient way of getting your brine by making it yourself rather than buying it from somebody else, and also a more efficient way of treating the streets. So I know the city staff does a great job plowing your city streets, it hopefully will be that much better as now the salt will stay where it's supposed to.
Right, right. Exciting new thing that we'll hopefully get some snow this winter to test it out.
I'm sure we'll get plenty.
Is there anything else you can think about, Andrew, that's been kind of an interesting challenge with this site?
Well, during the construction and early in the design, actually, we knew that the soil of this site was not fantastic. It was not good for bearing the type of heavy loads that this building has, or the City Hall has, or just the general vehicle traffic. So this building, not unlike the ice arena, Columbia Ice Arena, is sitting on some heavy structural foundations to kind of bypass those bad soils. So rather than excavating the whole site out and correcting all that bad dirt, is sitting on what is called a geopier, and it's actually a rock column that is pounded into the soil to support the foundations of this building, so that given the loads of the truck traffic and the weight of the trucks when they're just parked, we don't have any building sediment or settlement. There still might be some because it's not a perfect system, but we've really reduced the potential for failure there.
So the building's really built to last.
It's built to last, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that has just been interesting to hear. I mean, there's so many other little things about this building, and I think the public has good reason to be very, very proud of the effort that your firm and the city staff has put into trying to make everything designed so it really is a building to last a long time into the future and suit our needs. Well, to wrap up this program, there's one more development project I wanted to mention, and that is the construction of 28 patio homes that Pulte Homes is doing here on the south end of the Civic Campus, just off of 69th and University. They're going to be building 28 patio homes here, and as you can see, they are already far along in building their model home for this site. But if you're interested in this type of housing, which is one-level living housing, I wouldn't wait until they're done building this home. If you're interested, there's a sign out here that has a phone number. You can give them a call and get on their interest list. They're planning on having this model home open in the Fall Parade of Homes, so you'll be able to see it then. Also on the Civic campus, there is more housing that's planned to be built between the Civic buildings and the Pulte Homes development. The HRA and the City Council have had several meetings to talk about various residential development proposals for that site. They've yet to make a decision on that, but I'm hoping by the time of our next program we can give you an update on what's going to happen at that location. Meanwhile, thank you for taking an interest in development in Fridley, and as always, if you're interested in things and have questions, give us a call.
This has been a production of Fridley Municipal Television, Channel 17. Thanks for watching.